Hello and welcome to. You don't want to see this. Spoilers. Let us all get together and talk about why I'm back and also what we're doing today. So, today we have a completely new thing to go through. It's a community balance patch. We've called it the. I've forgotten the name already. That's insane. I've just been doing hours and hours and hours of this. Community balance adjustment, thank you. Or circuit or content balance adjustment. Many rules. CBA for short. That's what we've been calling it, CBA. So if you can't be asked, neither can we. That's the joke. No, I'm joined here by Alex and by Leon, who have been working on this to hopefully give players something a little bit different to look at and to play with in the coming weeks and months. So, let's get ourselves started. Alex, do you want to take us away?
All three game we want to play. And so we came up with the idea, because also the circuit season is over, why don't we make our own little, at the time we thought it's a community patch, to bridge the gap here, because the circuit season is over, and that also means there are a lot less online tournaments, a lot less online games, and maybe some people are feeling in a certain way not so enthusiastic about the game right now, because they were hoping for a patch at end of August, beginning of September, and it is not there yet. So we came up with the idea that we make a little of our own work, put it in there, and make our own patch until the C1 patch arrives. We want to make it very clear that we are not competing with C1 in any way, and we don't want to offer a counter product. That also means that as soon as the let's say the real patch is there, we will obviously find some way to switch over to that one. But because the circuit season, we wanted to continue, and we want to start a new one, and we want to start with this community patch to make things more interesting. In that way, we want to make sure that people get a little more excitement for the game, that they fall in love with the game again, that they can build new lists, new commanders, new units, and have an opportunity to build and create and find something they like to play and be creative. And so we want players to feel the excitement for the game again that they might have lost a little bit. And that's why we are introducing this community patch. We can now look at what we are changing in this community patch. And the main thing we want to change is not how the game is played entirely, but we want to change it in a way that offers more diversity in list building. Our analysis came to the conclusion that a lot of factions have a few things that are really strong, like, for example, right now Martells play a lot of sand skirmishers. The Rob Tully list is has been played a lot this patch. We have seen the classic meta game freefall play with Varamir all the time, and so we decided we make a lot of buffs to all the underplayed units and also the commanders. And our end goal is to reach a point where all the commanders that you have in a faction are now a little bit more on even footing. There still might be one that is better than the others, but if it is so, then we at least want to bridge the gap here, and we want people who like a faction not only have the choice of, oh, do I want to play a competitive list or do I want to have a meme list? We want them to have choices when they build their list with different units, with different commanders. And so the main thing in this patch is small buffs, sometimes creative buffs, sometimes just a stat buff for all the things that are underplayed right now, and also a few nerfs to the things that we consider right now the best things or the most annoying things in the game. So we want to aim at that.
Yeah. The idea, I guess, is to get a patch that feels like a patch that CMON themselves might release. We don't want to change the whole game. We just want to make a few small adjustments. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll crack on, and we'll start off with. We're going through in kind of, for want of a better term, release order. They're not actually in the order of which they are technically released, but they are in the order of rough releases in terms of timeline. They're also not in the order that CMON consider them released in, which we can go through, and it's all about IDs, and I won't go through that today. But we'll go through and we'll touch on all of these. So first up, Lannisters, one of the earliest factions, of course, for the game. And I think it's fair to say that Lannister have a fairly interesting place in the game. You know, we've seen a lot of Tywin, and that side of it we didn't really want to touch on. But we did want to look at some of the other more kind of those different things that we didn't see come up in the way that we hoped they would, right? So let's have a look through. First of all, we have Castle Rock Honor Guard. This was a bit of a sticking point for a lot of people, I think, because from a 7-point melee infantry unit, they just kind of beat a lot of the other 7-point melee infantry units with that switching off abilities. It is a core design aspect to Knights of Castle Rock Honor Guard. I think it's very important that they have this, but you'll notice that we moved it to a successful charge trigger, which actually means that they're much better at opening things like set for charge units. However, it's not going to be this grind machine that it ends up being against those grindy units. It now can open the doors, but it doesn't get to just have its foot in the door the whole time. Is there anything you guys want to add?
Also, someone with the Royal Guard unit, they were always kind of sad when this unit hits the table. So they do now have some counterplay where if they get to charge first, then they get to keep their shield wall. So I think that hopefully makes the battles between these two units more interesting.
I think solid just defensive abilities disappearing for basically the rest of the game wasn't particularly interesting. Let's put it like that. Okay, we'll move straight on. The next thing is Warrior Sons. Now, this is a relatively small change. You'll note it's just +1 to the morale number. When designing, one of the things that perhaps we've criticised before is changing a number by 1 doesn't feel very impactful. Stat. By God, is it a lot easier to just add 1 morale where you need it. We found it as kind of like, well, we want to make this better. We want to just give them +1 morale. And so we tried to stay away from this where possible. But for Warrior Sons, it felt thematic. This unit wants to be the hard thematic, morale type unit. And especially with auto failing panic tests now, it doesn't feel nearly as bad to give it that kind of bonus, because it doesn't matter if they stack a lot of extra morale buffs. It doesn't get much better than this. Hopefully, in that 7-point slot, a little bit more competitive, a little bit more playable, and those faith tokens will start racking up in those. All right. Next up, Subjugation. Now, Leon, I know that you had a lot to say about Subjugation of Power and this changing in this kind of regard.
Yeah, so one of the things I think most people hate against playing Lannisters is those random panic tests you fail and suddenly you have no abilities. And I think the Lannister players, they also hate it when their control elements don't work. So the idea here is that we're making this card reliable. You know ahead of time what happens when you play the card. So I think Lannister players can plan their round in advance, and they know they don't have to be afraid of that scary lance cavalry, their opponent, because they know they can just take that lance ability away. And yeah, the others, the opponent doesn't need to worry about their low morale unit getting spammed by subjugation of power from infinite range. So I think it makes it more satisfying for the Lannister and less dissatisfying for the opponent.
Decent control effects, but that are, fair, which is and less random. I think is the way we really wanted to go for this. Okay, in case it wasn't obvious, we're not showing every single change. This is the point where I will remind players that we'd be here forever if we showed everything. There will be PDFs shared in the chat and in the description of the video, which you can go through and see all of the changes. Once the video is completed, we'll share those. And that'll be all factions, all changes, and everything else that you can expect to see in this kind of version that we've put together. So moving on, we move on to Starks. And Starks have been in a bit of a difficult position in this last patch with, I think it would be fair to say, the term Tully Cavalier as basically being this spectre that has been lurking over the faction for now too long. Everybody knows, and we even joke about it in, I know, UK tournaments when people run lots of Tully Cavaliers, and we actively joke about them being, Tully wankers and that and the other. And it's joke, and we obviously don't mean any form of offensive terms, but it is that kind of like, oh, you're that guy, right? So Tully Cavaliers seeing quite a impactful change here, losing Rally Banner. They're still doing what they do, they just don't kill you anymore. They gain stubborn tenacity, and before people think, oh, but that doesn't synergize with Winterfell Guardians, and don't worry about any of that, they've all been amended to suit as well. I think, following on from the Tully Cavaliers, Leon, you really wanted to show off this next point, which was Brynden Tully. Oops.
Oh.
There you go.
Yep. So here's the idea. We just swapped the abilities of Brynden attachment and the Winterfell Guardian attachment. So the overall impact here is that if you still want to have your Rally Banner Tully Cavaliers, you can do that. You can certainly do that with Brynden attachment, but you cannot spam it, so to say, right? And I think Rally Banner is such a unique ability that it kind of deserves its space on a named character attachment. And you might also start thinking about, maybe I want to have Armor Ravagers in my army, or Stark Outriders, right? They also work now with Rally Banner if you really want to put Brynden in them. And at the same time, I still think Tully Cavaliers are also a great option.
Okay, Brill. We'll move on to, because we kind of skipped over them, the Winterfell Guard. Alex, I don't know if there's much you wanted to say about the Winterfell Guard not really doing what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, they were a 7-point unit, and it had adaptive, and that in itself was a little bit of a problem with those 4 free attachment points. And we felt this unit was basically never played in this patch, or they at least couldn't really pull their 7-point weight. So we gave them some more clear identity that this unit can punch. It can punch hard. It can punch with rerolls and vulnerable. And so that's one of many changes, I would say, because we showed now for the Lannister we at the beginning we kind of promised there will be more buffs than nerfs, so people usually like when their faction gets something and not when they lose something, and that's absolutely the case. We just want in this specific video where we are showing both of it, obviously, and the Winterfell Guard is one of those units that clearly needed a buff, and yeah, we gave it to them. Also, as you might see, improved defenses also gives movement now, which is one of the core identity things in Stark with Swift Repo and with Aya tokens. So you can even be more unpredictable with this unit now.
Brilliant. All right then. We will move on to neutrals then. Neutrals, we did have a relatively soft touch on neutrals. I think one of the key things that we wanted to really remind players of as well is that neutrals have got a lot of impact across not just their own faction, but the game as a whole, right? So it is risky changing anything in neutrals that then has wider impact. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't get any changes, just there is a wider risk. So yeah, we'll dive into the first kind of neutral change, which if you haven't been watching the Bolton spoilers from kind of the season 7 or whatever you want to call it from Michael Chanel, Bloody Mama Skirmishers, thematically we thought should be better at what they do, and at the moment very weak to those range units. So we gave them Mama's Dance. An ability to shift every time they get shot, which I think is really unique, and hopefully will make them see play. Yeah, I think it's really cool. Next up, Stonecrows. Now, Leon, this is one of those changes we made. You'll see that it goes from 6 dice, 7 dice on the highest ranks. Do you want to just talk me a little bit through why we touched it quite lightly?
I think neutral units, buffing cheap neutral units especially, is always a little bit dangerous. So we don't want everyone spamming Stonecrow suddenly. And so touching them just a little bit seems appropriate.
Small change there. And then Brothers in Arms with a complete rework. This is arguably a little bit of a nerf, arguably, but it also, I think, is one of those kind of game health changes. Leon, again, I know you spoke about this one quite heavily and you were interested in changing this. Do you want to talk us through what your thoughts were?
Yeah, so the problem with the card that gives a lot of dice on range attacks, obviously, is if there's a ranged unit that quite strongly synergizes with that card, and that unit is strong without the card, then with a card, it becomes a game health problem. And I think we saw that even when this card got released, it didn't have the Stormcrow requirement, and the community went crazy. So I think we kind of slightly buffed Jockin in other ways, and we also buffed the Stormcrow archers a little bit. But this power buff needs to come from somewhere, and we think nerfing the Brothers in Arms slightly is the kind of shift you want to see.
I think, my perspective, I still think this is a pretty good card. The +1 to hit Stormcrow Archers is pretty good, and the Vicious is a keyword they don't have access to otherwise. So yeah, I think this is not a bad card. It's just not the insane damage spike card that it used to be.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. All right. We will move on to Night's Watch next. There's been some real changes in Night's Watch, looking at just the way they function as a faction, without changing any of the base mechanics, but really questioning kind of what do we want, or what does the game really want from Night's Watch? and how it provides it. Now, Alex, I know that myself and you talked a lot about some of these. The first one, I think, I really like this change. I think this is actually a really positive buff to everyone's favourite real old men of the Watch, the veterans, on Faltering Honor.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is frustrating for Night's Watch players is obviously the mechanic that if you fail a panic test, you not only take wounds, you not only heal with maybe Satin or your Dauntless card or whatever, but you also lose all attached cards. And this is a big hit or miss. And I think every player knows how it feels when, maybe the odds are with you, but you roll Snake Eyes and suddenly it's all not so good anymore. And we wanted Night's Watch to have at least one unit where you don't have this effect. So it doesn't mean that you are not losing a vow. You are, but you can only lose one, and you can also choose it. And that makes, I think, the veterans, who were like in an interesting spot, I believe, really good against infantry, but maybe sometimes when they were not attacked, they maybe had damage issues. And against range, they are obviously not doing so good. And now with this, you have a unit where you can confidently put a lot of cards on, because, even if you fail maybe one panic test, you will not lose everything attached to this. And I think that's a little quality of life change for Night's Watch.
Those of you who think, veterans were at least playable, or at least decent, these are a bit better. We've got no qualms about saying that. But also Swarm Brothers did receive a positive change as well, so it's not like these guys will just completely outshine Swarm Brothers. But hopefully both of those other 7-point melee units will now compete with the Shadow Tower Spearmen, which were wholesale taken as 7-point melee unit of choice for Night's Watch. So yeah, hopefully some variation. Next one is the Builder Stone Thrower, and I really have a lot to say about this, which I'll try and cut down. I think everybody, and especially newer players, really hated playing into Stone Throwers. They created this horrible game where they just pummeled you at long range and killed ranks and units. And the number of times we've seen newer players and less experienced players alike just struggle into what the Builder Stone Thrower was doing. They've received a complete rework. We don't do this often. We have done it a few times. This is one of the few times where we have completely reworked it. We see an increase of wounds. It can now gain condition tokens. But the Rock Volley now is a support piece rather than a damage piece. So you can't spend weaken tokens when it fires the Rock Volley, meaning those weaken tokens can still be used on those melee attacks. Again, makes a lot more sense. And we see that it still can't target solos, and it gets a -1 to hit targeting cavalry. Meaning the solos and cavalry are still better counters. Still ignores the range and line of sight on this particular War Machine. But it just does 2 wounds. If it hits, it just does 2 wounds. Right? Nothing else. Does the panic check as normal, because you've taken wounds from the attack. But after completing this attack, the defender suffers -1 movement and -2 morale till the end of the round. This permanent debuff rest of the round, making you a lot easier for other Night's Watch units to kill. I think this is a much better design myself from the Stone Throwers, these support pieces. And before anyone's worried, being like, God, that's really a lot for not much, this is a 5-point unit now. It is designed to be a support tool that supports your army rather than being an 8-point unit that is your army. So yeah, we see this on the Builder Stone Thrower. This is not mirrored entirely with Scorpions, but Scorpions were also changed to fulfill this support role a little bit more. Still good against cavalry and monsters, but much more in the support role of doing it rather than just a straight up, I will eliminate any cavalry that gets. So yeah, do watch out for those. And if you're a Night's Watch player playing with these support tools, I think it'd be Bowen Marsh. Alex, I'll let you take this one if you want. Basically, he had a bit of a glow up.
I mean, it's always nice to have control over what cards you have in your hand and what you will draw and gain some bonus information on that. And we changed it that instead of looking at the top 2 cards, you look at the top 3 cards. And that's basically in line with a lot of changes that we are doing. Bone Marsh rarely saw any play, mainly also because like Donald and Aemon at the 4-point slot were really, really good and solid choices, sometimes even Varys. And we wanted to give all those small, nice buffs to the underplayed stuff. And I think this is another good quality of life change because you now can have more information even. Yeah, you just gain information even if you can still only take one card, but it you know the order, you know what's on the bottom now, so that's always good.
Okie dokie. We'll move on to the next faction, and if anyone is new around here, it's a personal favourite, Free Folk. Before anyone goes crazy and you haven't seen the changes yet, Free Folk received quite little change overall. You know, I didn't want to change them overly too much because I don't really see how faction can be made a lot better. So there were downturns in a couple of things, which you'll see in a second, but also some real complete reworks and changes to a few key things in Free Folk that just see little to no play. First up, we see Harmer's Vanguard. And first of all, it's a small thing, but we reordered the abilities, so cavalry's at the top. Did anyone ever notice that cavalry wasn't at the top of these units? We didn't. There you go. It was a small amendment change there. We gave them 5+ armor because, you know, they're raiders on a horse. Why does their armor get worse? But we also made them Harmer for the purposes of abilities and effects. So there is a reason to take this unit in Harmer's faction. Also, Planned Approach had a changed trigger, meaning it's a little bit more versatile to use, and it's a little bit more friendly in terms of the gameplay. Mammoths next. There's a lot of text written, isn't there, Leon? We wanted to give Mammoths that feeling of being a monster. Talk us through the change regarding terrain.
So, I guess this big mammoth, right? He just wants to charge stuff, and sometimes your opponent will place down palisades, and we feel like something as big and scary as a mammoth, they should just run those palisades down. So this is exactly what it does now, because the mammoth ignores all keywords on destructible terrain. And when it touches the destructible terrain, it destroys that. So the mammoth can just charge you through the palisade or walls or stakes you've put down, kind of opening up for the rest of your army to fall in behind. I
think, you know, as a reminder to players, this is the much needed hedge nerf that we all wanted to see as well, because the Warmouth will charge through those hedges and just it's a joke. But yeah, big opening there, and good against stakes and destructible terrain. With this though, there is the biggest change and the biggest kind of problem observed in Free Folk is Varamir. We changed Summon Companions. The unit that you select does not come back on unactivated. It always returns to the field activated, regardless of its status before it died. Hopefully this will go down to tuning Varamir and putting him in more in line with the other commanders a little bit. But yeah, obviously Varamir is a standout commander, and there probably were further changes. We actually decided not to go as far as we were going to go with Varamir. We nearly completely reworked Varamir and the Wolf Pack and Shadowcats, and we spent a good half an hour one day just debating whether we should. So yeah, ended up not seeing the changes, and we see Summon Companions here. This might be something that gets revisited, I'd expect. Baratheon. Alex, Baratheons. Why do they suck?
Well, there were different opinions on why that is the case. If it's the faction, or if it's there a certain approach to the faction that maybe is not working so well. But we basically concluded Baratheon have a movement problem, but their identity also is they're like a grindy faction, a tanky faction. So the solution is obviously not to give them super much movement everywhere. But I think Baratheon is one of the factions who got major buffs and also the widest area, I would say. Like, I think there are like 2 PDF pages with Baratheon buffs, and some of them are, I think, quite interesting. Some of them are also stat buffs, and some of them are just like quality of life things. For example, the Renly card, which name
Inexplicable Return.
escapes me. Oh yeah, this one. And I think that card needed. The reason why I didn't remember it because it was a not so useful card with the current new attachments, and something like that was changed.
Yeah, something I want to also add here is that the Baratheons, they always struggled to fill out those 4 attachment points as well. So even if we're not showing attachments here, we did have a look at them, and I think we increased quite a few attachments to 2 points while buffing their abilities, such that Baratheon can reach those 4 points spent in attachments.
I think, again, we won't review all of the changes now today, but one of the big things was that we hope to see a lot more of the Kingsguard, or Renly's Rainbow Guard, I should say, getting picked up and put on the table now, and certainly in the Renly. So Champions of the Stag. Leon, I know you thought this was a really cool change. Talk me through Proven Endurance.
Yeah, so basically the problem that this unit has is it wants to be engaged, right? It wants to hold down the enemy. It wants to use its 2-up armor. But the problem is that to what end are you holding up the enemy if you can't contest them on objectives? So we thought that if this unit basically contests objectives while it has equal ranks, then your opponent can't just sit an infantry unit on one of their objectives and expect to score that the entire game. The Champions of the Stag, they can just charge those infantry units, and if they take off a rank, your opponents won't be able to score, and then they will have to deal with a might of 2+ armor and Baratheon base deck.
Big battering ram again that can push people much more solidly off objectives. Yeah, I think great change. In a similar theme, but even a wilder change, the Battle of the Bells comes a calling in Baratheon Wardens gaining alarm bells. Alex, alarm bells.
I mean, they are wardens, so they should be really alarmed when something is going on, right? they otherwise they would not be good wardens. That's not doing it, right? And so to also deal a little bit with Baratheon's movement problems, and especially I would say the Warden's movement problem, they have only movement 4. Now, when another unit in short range performs a panic test, before rolling dice, this unit may pivot and shift too. This helps a lot with being outmaneuvered and maybe don't even have line of sight, or not being in charge range, or being charge blocked in some way. And this helps a lot. And it also helps a lot that the trigger is when the panic test comes before rolling dice, you
Mhm.
can do that. And we really didn't want to add another after attack trigger for Baratheons because they already have plenty of those, especially if they have sentinels in it, or if they have certain commanders like Justin Massey, who still has something like sudden retreat. And we wanted those wardens. We felt they were underplayed, and they needed those spells to be really good wardens.
Yep. So we'll move on directly then to perhaps someone that has needed some love for a long time, Andrew Estamont, with an attachment that for most people did basically bugger all for a long time of the game. Andrew has always been a bit of a sketchy commander in terms of what abilities he brings to his units. So complete refresh. We see Overrun replacing his abilities, as well as changing completely First of the King's Men. Now you have not a zone replace, sorry. When your opponent claims crowns, you can search your deck for a Rush or Reckless Fury card, add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. It allows you to look for those aggressive cards that you want with Andrew, to really push him in those early games and really push those advantages. I think this is a really cool ability. It plays with the controlling of crowns. Maybe your opponent won't want to control crowns, which gives your King's Men synergy. So yeah, I think Andrew getting a really cool kind of quality of life update, really. We'll see how this one pans out. Andrew has been a bad commander for basically his entire existence, unfortunately. So yeah, we really hope that this one makes it in. And on that note, we wouldn't just leave Renly's side with nothing. I think it would be fair to say one of the things that we said about Baratheon is the old adage of being the Timmy player. You don't know what that means. People who look for cool stuff they put on the table and it all comes together in that one moment. And who better to emulate that than Renly, Lord Paramount of the Stormlands? Leon, Swift Retaliation. Talk me through what on earth is going on.
I guess one of the age-old Baratheon problems is you have all the final strikes in your hand, but you can't play them because your opponent only does so many attacks, right? So Renly also adds another after attack card into your deck, and you might run Sentinel on top of that. So now all of a sudden you have four triggers on that one trigger. And this Swift Retaliation ability allows you kind of set up the perfect trap, where if your opponent attacks you at just the wrong time, you can really unleash fury on them. And yeah, I think that's kind of what this commander is going for.
Also got a little bit of glow up in his Gather Your Friends ability, which combines his precision with a few of the other things he brings. So being able to really load up on a few keywords or condition tokens if he's within your center of your army, which again, it's that thematic approach that we were hoping to achieve with a lot of these changes as well. So yeah, hopefully some Renly 2. I have to say, we also talked to, Alex mentioned earlier, the Inexplicable Return changing. We've replaced that with Regroup and Reform, and I think that's going to be... I love Renly 2. I think he's one of the coolest commanders in Baratheon, actually, arguably in the game. I think it's cool that he's seen a bit of love, and I'd like him to be good.
Yeah.
Targs. Now, I'll stay very quiet on Targs because there's some bad news for Targ players coming up, but it's not all bad, trust me. In fact, some of it's actually pretty good. Screamers, Alex, take us away.
Well, I think Screamers were just a unit that were a little bit too strong for the points that they were having, and I think the very easy and obvious fix is this morale stat, right? Screamers were just a wholeheartedly very, very good unit, and I think there is no particular reason why, with that attack profile, with the vulnerable token, with the Thunder Ring, they can be a really aggressive unit. But why did they also have for 6 points a moral stat of 5? That's just makes them, let's say, a little bit unreasonable, tanky, and a little bit too strong, and so we changed that one. Also in the hope to see more diversity in list building, maybe some other underplayed 6.5 points unit for the Targaryens will show up to replace this, and of course Screamers will still be strong, still be playable, but we want to have a situation where you can in some way consider all units of your faction as close to playable as possible, and we want to move in that direction.
Cool. Next up, it's everyone's favorite champion. It's Belwas. Count the Cuts getting quite a significant change. Leon, talk me through the change in Count the Cuts.
Yeah, I think Belwas also struggles kind of from this after completes a melee attack thing. And the problem with Count the Cuts is you're really not getting a lot for that trigger. So we kind of want to have something that more fits the theme as well. He likes getting cut a few times, not just once. So he gets this stacking buff where he can live his fantasy of being in combat and getting attacked all the time. Yeah, I think that's the thought behind that change.
We'll go straight into Barristan then, and again, I think Leon, you champion this Barristan change. We actually see Knightly Vow kind of get changed and reworked even further, receiving more positive changing, but also Barristan gaining Noble Sacrifice.
I think this vulnerable token is actually quite nice for Sir Dennis Mallister as well, because both Dennis and Barristan, they have combat prowess in their deck, and they like to expend condition tokens for that. Targaryens in general, they do kind of put out they don't put out a lot of vulnerable tokens if they use the infantry. So I think this is actually quite a nice underrated change. And this Noble Sacrifice, this was actually Alex's idea, so
go on.
Maybe he should.
Yeah, I think Barristan, from what character he is, he was always sacrificing in some way and putting his own life at risk. And that's what he does, right? He's part of the Kingsguard. He starts his, let's say, career basically by rescuing the king in a mission that was considered a complete suicide mission, but he is successful in it. And now you have the chance that when to feel like Barristan, to sacrifice Barristan. And also, I think it's a strong ability that you can save a unit. It's basically a to the last token. You can view it like that, but of course there sacrifices need sacrifices, so you will lose Barristan attachment and you will lose wound in another unit. But I thought that's a cool ability for Barristan to have.
Mm-hmm. Mixing it up, and again, a relatively underplayed and underappreciated commander, getting some love, which we hope will change things around. Greyjoys, this is the bane of my life, I know, for a little while now. And Alex, I think you feel that Greyjoys can give you a bit of a hard time. Leon doesn't feel that way, I'm sure. But
oh no, they're perfectly balanced.
Ilya in chat says, I hope you have put some love into Greyjoys. We'll see. We'll see. I think we'll start with the biggest change that everyone wants to see, which is Balon. We removed the flank element from Balon. Everything else is actually unchanged. It's just the flank element. None of this charging a unit in the front, sacrificing yourself, spawning behind the same unit, and charging it in the
5 points though, right?
It's 5 points.
Yes.
That's correct.
Is going down to 5 points.
in general, I think we removed all of the 6-point NCUs from the game and made them 5 points. And I think this is more in line. the pressure you can put out. I know this firsthand. And yeah, I think a lot of players, especially new players, weren't equipped to deal with this. They were, and if you get caught unawares or like on the wrong foot, then Balon on the flank will just completely ruin your game, right? So moving him to the deployment zone is a lot fairer.
Number of times we saw, even in competitive games, top tables of events where Balon would just spawn behind a defensive line and all of a sudden it's almost game over immediately. Which it's just not, it's when you're already having to spend everything you can to stop your opponent beating you, and then you find out that, oh yeah, well now they're just behind me. It kind of just sucks. So yeah. Moving on though, silenced men. This is again a complete rework. Talk me through this.
All right, so the silenced men, as they are currently, I think they're really focused about this great axe ability. So putting out -2 to defense dice, which obviously synergizes really well with Victarion. Having 2 pillage, rolling 8 dice, giving -2 on defense, putting out a vulnerable on the charge, and all of this is just there to charge something in the face, and basically kill this immediately, right? This unit wants to go face, and I don't think that's the best gameplay style, and I want to make this unit more about this cool aura ability, this unique, the infamy. They want to work together with other characters such as Euron. So we kind of double down on the aura. Not only do they put out more penalties in short range, but they also heal if enemy ranks are destroyed and put out potentially panic tokens. Yeah, so this unit is all about supporting in the fight, staying in the middle of it, healing and dealing. Yeah, and not so much about just rushing face and creating the immediate opening.
Mm-hmm. Eagle-eyed viewers who are reading the screen, especially if you're watching in 1080p, will notice that the pillage abilities here say if this unit has at least 2 pillage tokens. A changing in the wording, because one of the things that we discussed and brought to the table was that the pillage mechanic itself is not really played a huge amount with in that kind of really proactive, interactive way. You just kind of get it, you may spend it, right? So bit of a departure, and this is kind of like testing the waters with something that we thought about in a bit more detail. We see Balon Greyjoy Commander, and you'll notice Fueled by Slaughter is the same, but Kraken's Jews, this unit may have up to 3 pillage tokens. Playing a little bit more on the pillage mechanics, there is no static buff for 3 tokens. It just means you can have 3 instead of the normal 2. It gives you 1 extra to spend if you need to spend it without losing buffs. But also you'll notice that the Kraken Jews, that's all 4 standard attack keywords on 1 attachment, and if he has 3 pillage tokens, he's getting 3 of them. He's probably in a unit with 1 already. So yes, Balon Commander bringing I'm 4 keywords, let's go. I think that this is the kind of thing you need to compete with something like a Balon NCU to really give players the opportunity to run something interesting, diverse, and ultimately compete with what has been for a long time an almost auto. I think this might be
and
fun.
also this pick and choose keywords. You can already start to think about in what unit you want to put him in, and there's just so many options because he synergizes with everything, right? Because you can just choose which keyword you want to add.
Yep.
Maybe you want to go for the most rolling sixes and one-shotting the enemy unit, so you put him in a unit of Reaper to get the extra panic damage as well. Or you want to stay in the grind and put him in a unit of Iron Makers, and everything works. Yeah.
He's a bit of a different, perhaps, but hopefully something interesting. Martell's, this is your baby, Alex, and we can't talk about Martell's without talking about a certain thing. You know what it is. We know what it is. Everyone should know what it is.
Dune Viper?
Not Dune Vipers, it's Sand Skirmishers. Come on. Yeah. How do you feel about this change?
Well, the idea, or whenever you roam the discourse and read in the faction channels that are not the Martells, you see a lot of, let's say, frustration about Sand Skirmishers. And I have to agree to some degree. Martells were definitely using Sand Skirmishers all the time. And I will keep it short, but I will go into a little detail why that is. They are very good for their 7 points with the scout openings, and it is one of the few ways that Martells can get constant rerolls, and they are one of the, I would say, 2 units in Martell with Skyreach Bowmen that are like your damage dealers. The Outriders and the Landscape, they can do damage, but Martells don't have a caref attachment that leads to you don't want to play this unit because then you're throwing away some points somewhere else. So that's a whole other problem. And we wanted to address all of that. So we took the scout openings away, made the hit for the melee on 3. And in another change that we will soon cover, we also gave scout openings to a 2-point attachment. And we changed the 1-point attachment that wasn't really played. And now you can still, if you want Sand Skirmishers with scout openings, that's fine. You can still get it. You don't even have to put it in that specific unit because we know how scout openings work, right? And the other thing is, combined with this, you want to have more options in list building, and so we also made a few changes to other Martell units to make them more competitive. And here we see already Cheryl Dane now, instead of Insight and Furious Charge, 2 points with scout openings and a new ability, Departing Strike. That is very interesting and new ability, and we even added a little update on it because Departing Strike says when you perform a retreat action, you can make a melee attack using its lowest attack die. That synergizes not only with skirmishers, but it synergizes also with the Sunspear Dervishes. And I think we made a little last-minute change and made it only for Martell units because we realized, oh, the neutral dervishes also exist, so we don't want it there, I guess.
Yeah, this will be mildly errated by the time you see it, but it's but yeah, it will synergize with all the Martell units and combos that you're expecting to see. I think this is a much cooler ability. I really want to see named characters on the field, and I really want to see scout openings still playable. You're definitely going to be running him in Sand Skirmishers, almost definitely, but Sand Skirmishers being this,
also have a really place with them.
Well, you might want to look at Sand Skirmishers in the new PDFs, guys. If you're wondering why we're talking so much about Sunspear Dervishes, actually, have a look at Sunspear Dervishes in the PDF. I think you'll find it fun. But we do get to see the Dune Vipers that you were also really excited to talk about, Alex.
Yes, Dune Vipers.
Yes.
So the identity of Martell is a little bit of a poison faction, right? They are all around this Oberyn poison, and it turns out in quite a few matchups where you really need this Oberyn poison to burst down a unit or take healing away, and we wanted to add a little bit more of poison, but not like the extremely strong Oberyn poison, but also the Cranogman poison that you already know from the Bog Devils. And so now those Dune Vipers, instead of Spear and Net, have the option to not put a weaken token, but they can attack one Dornish poison card to the defender. We also added some synergies for Hain and Ziu, for example, if an enemy has this poison. And I think that's a very thematic change for a unit that was okay, but didn't see too much play, and now it has a little glow up here, and I think a very thematic one.
Cool. We'll keep going. There is one last change we want to show people today. It's a commander change, and I think this is going to make people. I think this is going to make people's eyes light up, Alex. I don't know about you, but I think this is the most exciting of all changes. Reckless Strikes in the bin. Fury of the Fallen for Abara.
Yes, that's a really interesting change and a really cool change for, I think, what was probably the weakest Martell commander. And Obara needed something, and Fury for the Fallen is definitely a very good and strong something. And now you can make extra melee attacks, which is something you could not do in Martell at all. You don't have any assault orders, any extra melee attack triggers, and now they have this in a faction, and now there's a really good reason to run Obara in certain lists. And yeah, the Reckless Strikes were always oof card. Geraldine already has this card, so wasn't like we felt it was okay to put one of those cards away and change a weak commander to something more interesting, more powerful, and more exciting.
I think Abara is really a Fury rolling and thematic for the attachment as well, based on lore and history of the unit. I'm really excited about that one. All right, Boltons. There's probably going to be a lot of players who are probably watching this, and the hundreds and hundreds of the one Bolton player watching this will probably want to see what changes we made. And in light of all of the Bolton changes we're currently seeing for the new edition, this will probably pale in comparison. We did make the contiguous change that Vargo, Hote, and Bloody Mummers, Zork Riders and Skirmishers, would be playable inside Boltons for Bolton points rather than neutral points. We saw that change anyway with the kind of Season 7 or whatever you want to call it, announcements. So we followed that through as well. But we see Dreadfort Spearmen changing. They now just make the defender panicked, regardless of if they remove a rank or anything like that. So they always get to put a panic token out based on that set for charge order. I think this consistency is just something that they lacked, and it felt really bad using a Dreadfort Spearman on that set for charge, then not actually give you any tokens because you failed to remove it at all. But just automatic panic token, it's something. It's a bit different. Maybe synergizes with your horrific result.
Yeah. Also, another 5-point unit that's suddenly playable allows you to maybe dip into the 8 activation range, and where you can spend more of your attachment points, because that is something Boltons have struggled with a lot as well. And we've kind of addressed this, I think, or at least we've addressed parts of it with the next change, and also with the Vargo being able to be picked from the neutrals.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it. Ben Bones ignores attachment limits. I think this is spot on. You know, he costs 0 if he's in Bastard Girls, and you're probably putting him in Bastard Girls, let's be honest. So he just ignores attachment limit now. Gives, you know, yes, you can make a super unit of like Ramsay, Ben Bones, Reek kind of thing. Fine. Go for it. I love it. You know? That's the kind of thing what Boltons want to be able to do. Let's let them do it.
Yeah. I feel like this Ben Bones character got introduced to make Bastard Girls better in Bolton without changing the neutral faction Bastard Girls, because I think Bastard Girls is one of those units that can be very dangerous with the right synergies. And if you just buff the Bastard Girls, there's probably a faction that does it better than Bolton. So taking his or giving him this ignoring attachment limits basically goes back to the status quo before the patch, where you can take Ben Bones for free in your Bastard Girls to make them better. But you might also decide, you know what, maybe rerolling charge dice on cutthroats isn't so bad. Maybe I want to spend one of my attachment points on that.
Think about that. Possibilities. So we see Skinner updated as well. This is actually one of the changes that we made, where we increased the cost of an attachment, and made them.
I think he stays the same.
He stays the 1 point. I thought we moved it. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. So 1 point attachment for now. Price of failure on an order. This is just a really good attachment for 1 point now. I think we all agreed that Skinner was almost unplayed. I actually don't think I ever saw him on the table. So yeah, an interesting order that people can play around with. Enjoy. Brotherhood. Brotherhood without banners. There's not much to change in Brotherhood, and we tried where we could to stay away from changing base tactics deck cards. Everyone remembers all the way back to Subjugation. It's one of the only base deck cards we changed. We did have a bit of a hum and ha over Brotherhood, and we decided to make a few tweaks, I hope, to bring down one of the one or two, maybe 2 or 3 of those kind of problematic combos that we saw creeping up into the game and into. First of all, though, Men at Arms losing that ambush and gaining superior numbers. I think this is just a really positive change in general. Ambush didn't really go off that much in Men at Arms, and when it did, you were winning. And also, Brotherhood, with the likes of Ghost and things, already had 1 million tokens coming out. So superior numbers, giving them a better 6-point offensive unit that's actually more of an opener, I think is a more interesting route to go down than the kind of like weird finishing unit that 5 speed point melee unit. Changing the theme a little bit there, hopefully changing the role of the unit, but keeping this core identity alive. Next
also
up,
might actually get you to pick something else than Kingsman once in a while.
Yeah,
because this unit does the Kingsman job also quite well, right?
Next up, Edric. This is a change. Removing regroup for elusive escape. Useful. Elusive escape's really useful, but one of the real kind of problems that we saw to some extent was Beric, Edric Dane, or Thoros, Edric, Sean Crow Dervish. Regroup on an attachment that ignores attachment limits, even if it's only for a small segment, which is the case Thoros. It just creates quite an unpleasant unit that we saw with Rob. Yes, survived. And we see it here as well. Regroup and Swift Strike is just not really that fun when you've got a faction designed that also purely designed to not die. The number of times I think where we saw complaints where people had got that unit down to 2 or 3 wounds, and then a round later it's at full health, and they've not even spent any reason to get it there. Hopefully, Edric Dane providing a different utility tool than just pure heal. Lastly, and not leastly though, Angai, Alex, we gave an attachment Overwatch. Are we insane?
Yes. Maybe. It is relatively expensive. It's a 2-point attachment, and I think it really makes it interesting. We didn't really see that guy play, and even to go a little bit on the Edric thing. I just had on Friday I played live with some friends, and there was a new guy who was playing against the Brotherhood for the first time, and he was playing Starks. And he basically asked me before the game started, what are the things you need to focus on in this game? And I had to tell him, with his all melee Stark army, never do a melee attack against those dervishes. You will regret it. And he looked a little concerned about it. He didn't like what he hear, and we want to go back now. To our Overwatch idea, we want to have this a little bit more for Brotherhood than just the idea of, oh yeah, I'm gonna grind with Kingsman. We want to add a little flavor and little different playstyle possibilities with the Archer interaction and with Overwatch, and we don't always want to see the same barrack list, and that's why we gave him this. And maybe another point that we haven't mentioned, we made a few universal changes. For example, Domineering Pride is now different, and when we put something like that, for example, we had it in Barris Midnightly Vow, and that is, of course, then also changed for Lannister with the Night's Watch, and just another thing to add here.
Yeah. Another global change people might like was Warcry. Not going back to its original version, but certainly the Warcry Tactics card getting a little bit of a glow up to make it a little bit more playable and versatile, as well as a couple of other changes to like love for the small folk and small buffs and a lot of cards. So a lot of commander cards saw quite a significant change and buff. Do look through. We didn't show many of those today, but do have a little look through and kind of get to the meat and potatoes of the patch, if you that brings us to the end of today's kind of like reveals or spoilers-y type things. This is not the end. This is the end of today, but this is not the end. What happens now? So, Leon, you've spoken to the rest of the circuit team, and there is going to be an online tournament on behalf of the circuit included in Circuit Season 2 that uses these rules starting in the next couple of weeks, right?
Exactly. And we kind of want to make Season 2 of the circuit. we use this meme, the Electric Boogaloo, as a subtitle for the Season 2 because we want to really try out some new ideas this season. We think the competitive game has quite long had an established meta now, so we really want to try something else, and I think this custom balance adjustment here is just the start, and we have some more ideas ready, which we will share later, I guess.
I'm expecting some really good things. Okie dokie, Leon, where can people find all of the PDFs, all of the extra cards, etc., etc., etc.?
All right. Actually, I don't have the link ready quite yet. I'll quickly look around. All right. I'll post it here in the chat. I think maybe you should post it, because then the
Auto mod
then
won't get
it's
rid of
actually a link you can click on it.
I guess we can also add it to the
And
description later.
also
We will do.
edit the description, right?
Yes, yeah, it'll go into the video description. But if anyone wants it, it's in the chat right now. Go through all the files for all of the different things. Alex, what is the thing you're most looking forward to in the patch for yourself? If you're going to play around with it and see some things change, what specific thing, combo, ability, what one thing is it that you're going to go, oh, I really want to try this?
I mean, I'm a Martell player, so I definitely try out a new Darkstar Retinue. I will try out Bara, and I will try around a little bit with Oberon NCU and Attachment Oberon and see how those changes work out. And yeah, very excited to see this. And maybe another thing we would like to add, we are very happy if you want to play this and enjoy this, give us feedback, because we are not perfect, smart human beings. We might have overlooked a lot of things, or maybe there's some broken combo we didn't think of, and this is not completely set in stone. If there's something that is broken, it can be fixed, but we are very happy to get your feedback and your play experience about this, and we hope to get your excitement for the game a little higher, and also have the chance to play in a tournament with the new patch on a little competitive setting.
Brilliant. Leon, over to yourself. What's the thing that you're most likely?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing more Euron. I've always been a Euron fan, but the problem is he's just always sucked a bit ever since the free folk counter list went away. And we did basically change all of his tactics cards. We improved the triggers, and I'm really. I've already played one game against Alex with him, and sadly I didn't draw any of his tactics cards. So
we played Euron against Amara. I didn't draw Fury for the Fallen when I needed it, and he didn't draw his white games. So that was I guess we need another one.
Yeah.
Amazing, fantastic. I'm really looking forward to running some mammoths, in case it isn't obvious. And actually, I've been dipping my toe into Night's Watch. I really want to just start making people scared of stone throwers, but in a more scared way, rather than just taking their models off the table. So I'm looking forward to those two things. All right. Well, season 2 of the circuit will kick off with this in the next couple of weeks. You'll see all of the tournament kind of shared everywhere on the normal place where you find online tournaments. All the PDFs available on the Google Drive if you want to utilize those for yourself, for either that playing locally or just experimenting. And as of about an hour and 15 minutes ago, in fact, a new update to TTS went live. There is a toggle inside TTS where you can toggle it on, and when you upload your army or load your army into TTS, it will load in with the changes implemented. So hopefully people can go out there and enjoy. This is there for people while we go through spoiler season for the next iteration of the game, and for us to enjoy, try something different, experiment, and just have some fun, because that's what the game is about. It's about having fun, enjoying our time with each other, and playing some pretty silly games where we just blow each other's units up and have a laugh. So yeah, let's go into this kind of in-between period and enjoy ourselves. Yeah. You know where we are if you need anything. Thank you very much, Alex and Leon, for coming here today, talking through the changes, but also for being part of the journey. And we hope that everyone enjoys. See you later.
See you.
You.